The happiest Tuesday of all to everybody. What's up, everyone? It's the Recap Lunch Hour with me, Guff, Ryan McGuffey, here on the recap. And yes, we did this 24 hours ago, and we talked about will the Bears name a head coach this week? And then shortly after, we shut down the program. Yesterday, about an hour and a half later, bam, the biggest surprise to all of us, certainly to me. I think a lot of us, all the reporting done from around the league, we see the Adam Schefter tweet and then the firestorm after that of tweets and confirmations that Ben Johnson is, in fact, the new head football coach of the Chicago Bears. He's at Halas Hall right now as we speak with his family, his 3 kids, and it just makes you think, did the Bears finally get it right? Are we going to be sitting here 3 or 4 years from now going, here we go again? I hope not. Especially, he spoke briefly to team employees who gave him a standing ovation outside of their offices. You can find those videos on social, on X. And he spoke briefly to, he made a joke to employees saying, get back to work. And thank you for the arousing ovation, and that this is exactly where we wanted to be. It's very clear. He was eyeballing this position a year ago, thinking, okay, the Bears are going to have the number 1 pick. There might be an opening. I'm going to position myself for this possible job. Obviously, it wasn't open. And here we are 12 months later. The Lions get ousted, upset in the playoffs. And Ben Johnson, just days later, is now the head football coach of the Chicago Bears. I think a lot of people, including myself, have a little trepidation because of the PTSD that we've had as Bears fans and saying, here we go again. I asked everybody on social, give me 3 words to describe your feeling. And it's here we go again. That's 4 words, by the way. LFG finally got right. I mean, it's both sides of the ledger. Eli, what's up? CPO is Ben Johnson's introductory press conference sometime today. It is not. The Bears have yet to announce the hire. I would expect that press conference would come as soon as tomorrow. Tomorrow seems to feel right. Maybe it drags into Thursday, but I think at this point, I feel pretty safe. Like it's definitely going to be tomorrow. So based off of what time that could happen, the lunch hour may fluctuate depending on what time that would be. Chicago Bears, how are you doing today, brother? I'm doing just damn fine. How could we not be? Ben Johnson is the head coach of the Chicago Bears. There's reason for excitement. Dennis Allen, likely his defensive coordinator. That's not, again, definitive, but it certainly feels that way with the big wigs who are reporting that. And I've been consistent about surround yourself with a bunch of head coaches. Have the head coach have coordinators that are head coaches. Dennis Allen, former 2-time head coach. Let him run the keys. Let him have the defense. Mike, I'm happy to see things at Halas Hall changing. Kevin Warren likes the big lights. Flashy hires. Ben is going to be great, man. I hope, because we don't know. Only because we've been here before with the hot coordinator. This one feels different, though. I will say that. This one feels different. The entire league, and I said this yesterday when Cap and I went live, the entire league is raving about this hire, okay? That doesn't happen all the time. That doesn't happen. Not that what the league says is always right, but what I'll say about that is like we'll keep the receipts on this hire and we'll go back and evaluate. Hopefully the receipts on this one prove to be good. We just throw them away, and the Bears have their head coach for a long time. What's up, Jess? Glad I was wrong yesterday and the Bears got the job done quickly. Yeah, Jess said that they were going to hire a coach next week. Who do we think the OC will be? I'm hearing it might be a name that we don't know much about. Ben Johnson obviously is going to call plays for this football team, and he may line up a couple of guys upstairs in the booth that might be younger names, maybe guys that he believes could be future head coaches, but they will put the game plan together while he's doing the football duties, meaning media, being in meetings with defensive and offensive lines, players, linebackers, defensive backs, etc. And then he'll tweak it to his liking. So I don't know if we're going to know the name. I saw some people trying to get Hank Fraley out there. It sounds like that's not official. It sounds like Hank Fraley's interviewing for other OC jobs, the line coach in Detroit. I would love that idea, but I wouldn't be surprised if that name was a lesser known. So we'll see. You're not going to have two egos. Like, you're not going to have a head coach and then an offensive coordinator trying to do his thing under Ben Johnson. We don't want that. So we'll see what happens. Uncle Ted, 0 time scooping at Ben Johnson. I don't think the Bears ever had him in the building and were able to get him signed and locked and loaded. Go Bears. It's funny how far we've come, right? The awful season, couldn't wait for it to be over. And now here we are, just a few weeks after the regular season is concluded, and we're sitting there going, is football back? Can we play football again? Can the Bears get to training camp? Can we do 2025? Right? I mean, it's really funny how quickly things can change. The real Phil Simms. Phil Simms hitting me up on Twitter overnight. Phil's just pounded me with stuff. My goodness. He's got all kinds of thoughts. They definitely have to get a great coaching staff and fix the offensive line. Yeah, now this is on Ryan Poles, guys. Ryan Poles is now responsible for getting the roster right. And to be honest with you, you have a head coach now that knows exactly what type of line, exactly what type of players, exactly what type of skill positions he needs in order to make his system work. And I like having that camaraderie and communication from head coach to GM. So now, with a lot of salary cap space, we'll see if they restructure anybody or cut anybody altogether to make more room for either players, more, contract extensions, stuff like that. But I would expect, that we won't see Keenan Allen back, that we are going to, I said yesterday, give me anybody in the draft or free agency that weighs 280 or more and can move other people. Uncle Ted, I can't wait to see what Ben Johnson does with the running game, right? I know. What I'm wondering is, like, do they go out and get like a complimentary back to pair with DeAndre Swift? A lot of people out there thinking the Bears will draft, maybe wanting the Bears to draft Ashton Genty from Boise State. I just don't feel like that's the need at 10. JC saying if he brings over the Lions line coach as OC, that would be huge. I don't know if that's going to happen. I would love it if that were to happen. It doesn't feel like right now, at least just kind of sorting through the murkiness of social media, that is in the plans. He might be wanted elsewhere. Plus, keep in mind, Detroit needs an offensive coordinator now. That'll be interesting. Plucking from the big dogs. And people in Detroit are freaking out, by the way. Have you seen people's reaction in Detroit from radio shows to social media? They're calling Ben Johnson a backstabber, that this is he has no loyalty. Loyalty? Dude, there's how many of these jobs available? And you're going to take the best one. The goal is not to be fired here. Come on, man. It's like the Lions a week ago are feeling like they're going to win the Super Bowl. Now a week later, they're just throwing darts at everybody. I get it. I'd be mad too. What's up, Eric? Great hire by the Bears. Now let's build in between the trenches and let's get this offseason started the right way. I think the offseason has certainly started the right way. Now let's bring in a great staff, start getting guys prepped for the combine, do the combine, and go from there. And then free agency. I do think we keep Swift. Yeah. I mean, they just signed him. I don't think Swift was a problem, by the way, folks. He almost ran for 1,000 yards. I know that might not seem like a lot these days or a big deal these days, but I don't think DeAndre Swift was a problem. I just think everybody else in front of him was. Uncle Ted, I appreciate you sticking to your guns here. Good for, Matt Burke, I think, is still going to be in Houston by the time everyone sorts out and the other coaching coaches are filled. If everyone agrees, it probably most likely is a horrible sign. That's kind of where we are. I'm going to sneeze here. I'm not even at the office. Nothing like sneezing live. I keep saying that. Mike, the other hit coordinators didn't have anything close to Ben's resume. No doubt about it. Do you think Kevin got to George to do business differently? It sounds like George got uncomfortable with the contract number and still did it. It sounds like we know that Ben Johnson was a commodity. So if they're using the Raiders as leverage, and maybe even Jacksonville to a certain extent, they go to the Bears and say, hey, look, you got to hit this number or you're going to lose this guy. And at the end of the day, and that's going to get out, by the way, at the end of the day, the Bears got to that number. Good for and if that's the case, good for George for being uncomfortable for the first time in a long time. Yeah, Mike, I was going to bring this up in a little bit. Congrats to Ohio State. They are awesome. So proud of that Irish team, never quit. It ended up being what looked to be a blowout and a complete mismatch to a big surprise late in the late in the third quarter. Right? Notre Dame down 31-7, and all of a sudden it's 31-23. Phil's jacked up because he was tweeting me last night. Title's back in Columbus. The $20 million payroll handled their business last night. What can they say about Ryan Day now? That he paid for the best roster. No big deal. And that he can't beat Michigan, but he did win a national title. Mike believes Swift's on borrowed time. We'll see, because DeAndre Swift did work with Ben Johnson 2 years ago. Ironically, Ben Johnson must not have fought hard for him because they let him go to Philly. So this will be interesting. Imperial. Yeah, I think everyone agrees with you. The Bears need 4 new offensive linemen. 4. Darnell Wright's about the only guy you can make a case that you could bring back as a starter. They absolutely need to address center. My God. Obviously, left tackle, but if you don't have a center, they haven't had a center for over 2 years. Jess, I just hope that we don't have what happened with the DC and Flus. Once Flus was fired, the DC was a lame duck, couldn't do anything. I'm also really excited about the possible Dennis Allen. Yeah, me too. And he calls, if there's some graphs on Twitter, he calls one of the more aggressive and best defensive schemes in football, which is, again, I like the idea of Ben Johnson going, hey, like I'm in charge here, but you go run the defense. Okay. I'm going to check in. I'm going to know what's going on. I'll always be dialed in, but here are the keys. I love that. I love that the ego there that's saying, I need to hire someone smarter than me defensively to run that unit. Ira says if the Bears go bargain shopping in free agency trades and don't draft well, there will not be a playoff. Well, yeah. Ira, that's a very obvious statement, but sometimes obvious needs to be put out there. Bears, we have a lot of flexibility this offseason. Here's another one, Lip Ripper, saying we should draft the running back from Boise. I know that would make somebody in my household very happy. So you're talking about – so I will say this. If the Bears were to draft Genty, that I think DeAndre Swift might be in trouble. Maybe he's back for a year and they pair together like Sonic and what's the Detroit? It's Sonic and Knuckles. Yeah, like David Montgomery. Jahmyr Gibbs, that now our head coach should have leaned on more in the second half, by the way. By the way, is it true the Cubs are out on Bregman? And no Tom Ricketts. The Cubs shouldn't be the favorites. The Brewers are still the team to beat. Stop half step. Yeah, a lot of reaction to the interview that Cap and I did on the channel last week with Cubs chairman Tom Ricketts, followed by an interview that I also was on Inside the Clubhouse Saturday on The Score about spending money or maybe lack thereof. I don't think the Cubs are out on Bregman. I think they're checking in and seeing if there's a lesser deal to be had as free agency continues into February. Bregman wouldn't surprise me if somebody swooped him up for multi-year deals sooner than later. Uncle Ted says, give me a big-time edge rusher in the first round. A lot of good ones this year. Yeah, that too. Both sides of both lines need to be fixed. Both lines need to be fixed. You need some dudes. That's what I'm saying. I would prefer the draft just have a bunch of guys 280 or more that can move and move people. Mike says, remember when Ben was on the staff, they got rid of Swift. Yeah, I just mentioned that. Don't expect Swift to be around long. Let's see. Let's not just start writing off DeAndre Swift if he's problem number one. He is not the only – folks, he is not the biggest problem on this team. He's just not. Dave says, how did Detroit fans not know he was leaving? I don't think that's the part that chaps them. The fact that he stayed in division and they know how talented he is of a play caller makes it feel like he cheated on them, which honestly, come on, man. I've been saying this forever. Everyone's like, what happens if the Bears get a coordinator and he leaves? Who cares? That means good things are happening here. And if he goes to a team in the division, beat him. Detroit's got a problem with losing Ben Johnson to the Bears. Fine. You hate the Bears more now. Beat him. Jay says, keep in mind, Aaron Glenn might take some Detroit guys for his OC as well. Yeah, it looks like Aaron Glenn is going to be the Jets head coach. The Jets are interviewing him today, and I think, Ian Rappaport put out something earlier that said the Jets are going to make sure he doesn't leave the building, meaning they're going to do whatever it takes to sign him to a contract. So I understand. The Lions are 15-2. They're the number one seed for the first time. Everyone's feeling Super Bowl. They've had a boatload of injuries. They get upset by the 6th seed. Now they've lost their offensive coordinator. They're about to lose their defensive coordinator. They'll probably lose some coaches within that staff that get plucked because they're going to be promoted elsewhere. And now everyone's going, holy crap, everything's been taken away from us in a matter of a week. That's what happens when you're really good, though, that eventually the band can't stay together, and hopefully that you are developing other coaches as you're building your program and continue to evolve your program. When's the presser? I think it's going to be tomorrow, Tommy. Yeah, it was your pick. So happy we got him. Steve says maybe pluck one of those receivers from the Bills. Ira, why would Ryan Poles have given up a 4th-round draft choice of 1 year of an aging veteran in Keenan Allen? I didn't mind the trade at the time, Ira, to be honest with you. I thought it was a good pick. I thought for Caleb Williams, a rookie quarterback, to get maybe the best third down receiver, one of the best third down receivers in the history of the game. I thought it was a good idea. It didn't work. He missed 2 of the first 3 games, I think, with a heel injury. It didn't work. It's really all I think it would have been a bigger issue now. Like, we're all sitting here in hindsight. If they would have immediately upped him to a contract extension and then he had that type of year, I think we'd all be going, I don't know. Now I'm just like, yeah, he's going to move on and the Bears will get better. And I think Rome Odunze, by the way, I was saying this to my son last week. I think he's going to be such a dude. I really do. I think in year 2, he's going to make a jump from here to here. I think he's just a sleeping giant. A lot of hate for DeAndre Swift out here today, huh? Dave saying Swift always went lateral and got stuck. You know why? Because the linemen were 2 yards in his face as soon as he got a handoff. He had nowhere to go. Damn. Uncle Ted, Josh Simmons protected Kayla's blindside would be great. Absolutely. Thomas says he's hoping for a Commanders-Bills Super Bowl. Sign me up for that as well. The Eagles are boring to me, but I do love Saquon. So I kind of feel like Saquon gets his due. I'm okay. But this is a Bills household, I think, right now over here. We're all on the Josh Allen train. So let's go. Juan. Hopefully Ben can change the locker room culture, and I think it starts with DJ Moore. I think there's much that's been made about DJ Moore this year. I think he's a dude. I still think he matters. I do think the culture needs to change. And maybe DJ was showing frustration last year because of it. Anybody ever thought about maybe he was pissed that guys were getting away with stuff and he thought was unacceptable? Now you might want to say, well, then why didn't he do something about it? Well, maybe you felt like it was us against the world and you couldn't. I'm just speculating there. I don't think DJ Moore is going anywhere. He's a dude. I think he's going to have a big year next year. I really do. Ira says perhaps the chance of sell the team at the last Bears home game of the season swayed ownership into this hire of Ben Johnson. You know what I think swayed ownership? Just overall, like maybe they finally listened to the people they hired below them and said, look, here's the dude, man. Here's the dude. Everyone wants him. He's going to get $14 million a year, $13 million a year. And that's the cost of doing business. Either you're in on that or you're not. Or you hire $6 million boring coordinator. Lip Ripper says the Mountain West has great talent, but I'm a Mountain West homer. Jackson Woodard of UNLV is a dog. Well, of course, we know that Lip Ripper's a rebel, so doesn't surprise me. Is a dog, though. I know who you're talking about. Mark Andrews, tight end. Steve, is that what you're saying? Mark Andrews, a tight end to the Bears? Well, I would like to see their $14 million tight end become a pass-catching tight end. Because if he's not, I don't know if Cole Kmet is worth $14 million a year. Dave, if the Bears had a better coach this year, they would have had 5 more wins this season. It showed in the playoffs. Minnesota and Detroit got 2 squeaker wins from Chicago. I don't know if they had better 5 more wins, maybe. I mean, the Hail Mary, the blocked field goal probably, the debacle on Thanksgiving, the Seattle 6-3 game. You know what? That's 4. I think that's at least 4. I think that's fair. I still think they lose the Patriots game. You got to say they'd lose the Arizona game. The Vikings game, they were down 24-10 in the fourth quarter and came back to force overtime. So I'm not counting that one. I think 4. Dave, I don't think you're wrong. Big Ten is king. Boo. Well, you're just happy the SEC's not getting the taste of it today. Big Ten. Sure. It's the cost of doing business, Mo. That's what it's nice to see what a $20 million roster can get you, kid. Ben's going to be looking for his Gibbs. Yeah, I think you're right. Can you put Braxton Jones as a guard? I think you can do whatever you want. I think everything's on the table. If you can turn him into a good guard or even a serviceable guard, maybe you replace the other 3, both in the draft and free agency. Mike says, I'd rather have Ron Rivera for DC. I like Allen, but Ronnie is better. But is that just because of your heart or your head? Look at statistically the defenses that Dennis Allen has created and called. As a matter of fact, I'll find that it's out there. There's a tweet, and I'm good having a former head coach as a DC. I'm not going to complain about that. CPO says, I like the fact that Dennis Allen was a defensive coordinator for 7 years before coming to head coach again. I agree. Michael, and this is what people fear, back-to-back offseason champs. The Bears have a lot of offseason banners. They're hanging, but they have one team. And even I, who I say I'm sick of the 85 Bears, I'm sitting right behind me. Who we have? 85 Bears. By the way, 43 years ago yesterday, the Bears hired that guy as the head coach. And 43 years to the day later, they named Ben Johnson. Man, will the result be the same? Could you imagine? And all of these cards here would just be full of just offensive superstars. Oh, my God. I don't even know how we'd know how to react. Mike, guys, Braxton Jones can't anchor at tackle. Agreed. You think he can handle D tackles at guard? No. Isn't a guard. He's purely a tackle only and below average one at that. Then he's got to go because he should not be the left tackle of the Bears. I would not bring Tevin Jenkins as a restricted free agent. I would not offer him a contract. I would not. I don't know where you guys think on this. He can't stay on the field. When he does, he's not good. He needs to be, no. The answer is no. I would not bring him back. That's a good question. Also, I'd take either right now. Bill, well played, Guff. Can't argue with you on that. They better beat Michigan next season. Well, they won the national title. So would you rather than beat Michigan and lose the national title or lose to Michigan and win the national title? I would take the latter. As bad as the O-line has been, the D-line, Mike, is worth. I think a lot of people, I'm with you on the Tevin's gone. A lot of people we're sleeping on that defensive line in a bad way because it's bad and it needs to be upgraded. Thanks for the donation, Akuma. O-line held Swift back. Got to draft trench heavy. I'm with you on that. I don't think DeAndre Swift is a problem. That guy's legs, by the way, he's a little guy, but man, his trunks are huge. Whew. Tony says, as a Bears fan since 1969, it couldn't be more excited. I think everyone's on that train, Tony. Uncle Ted, the Lions roster is really nice. Can't blame people for wanting to No, it's a copycat league, guys. This isn't like Steve brings up a valid point about Keenan. Still at 709 yards. Didn't play here. Let me bring up Keenan Allen just so we're on the. It is kind of shocking. I'm just looking at some of the stuff about Keenan Allen right now that's coming up. A lot of speculation as to where he had 744. He still had 70 catches. He shockingly had 70 catches, 744 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Like, still was producing. Andrew says the dream scenario for me would be Johnson and Robert Saleh at defensive coordinator. I don't think that's happening. But Dennis Allen's not settling to quote Cap in either way. The pick at OC will be an interesting one. Again, I think don't get excited. I'm gonna say don't get excited if you see a name at offensive coordinator. You're like, who? I'm telling you, this will be a guy who works in tandem with Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson, make no mistake, is calling these plays. Swift was not very good, Guff. Tape never lies, as we know. Yeah, I know. I've watched the All-22 on a lot of these things. There are times where he missed the holes, especially early. I don't think I said earlier, remember when I was like, name one player that's improved this year? Swift's not on that list, but I don't think Swift, when you put it all in the blender, DeAndre Swift to me is not the biggest problem. It's just not even close at all. Tony says, keep Swift. The guy's a great running back. Like Caleb, hard to be great when the O-line sucked. TSI Mike, man, this guy's pumping out streams, by the way. The community he's built over there at Toronto Sports Insider, they had a boatload, tens of thousands yesterday in the national champs feed or the national championship feed. He brought people over to our reaction of Ben Johnson, and he's got a big plan this weekend for the conference title game. He's got a big community of Bills fans. I'll be in there on Sunday to take a look at what's going on. Uncle Ted says Ashton Genty scores touchdowns and will be a 4.5 yard per carry running back. I don't think a lot of people would disagree with you. Phil, a couple more here, guys. So many comments. I mean, the comments are just pumping. With Jack Flaherty out there, do you think the Cubs would go after him? Saw articles predicted that he'd come to Chicago. Thoughts? I think it's possible. I don't think they're going to do 4 for 100 or anything like that. I don't think they do 4 years with him. Maybe 3 for 60-ish. I also don't think it's their biggest need right now. They got to sign a closer. And Kirby Yates also goes to the Dodgers today. It's getting disgusting. I'm not mad at the Dodgers. They're doing what they're supposed to do. Sign us all the good players. But it's starting to get to a point where it's very clear baseball has a major problem. Baseball has a major problem. Mike says there were holes to run through all over the tape. Swift just didn't run through them. His vision is awful. Fell down a ton. Was bad overall. Yeah, I mean, the tape doesn't show great things for Caleb at times either. And then we all know his 3.8 yards per carry won't work. Guys, watch. If you want to watch tape, Mike, I love watching the tape, and we'll watch it together. Watch how many times the offensive line just gets blown off the football. I'm not talking about one. I'm not talking about the center guard or maybe the tackle or guard. I'm talking about 4 out of 5 players every play just getting their ass driven back. Terrible. That's got to change. That's got to change. Couple more. Yeah, Eric wants Dennis Allen all day. We're going to do the recap bet of the day. We did hit yesterday. Pablo, 135 strong in here. Love it. Thanks for the show, Guff. Pablo, loving you too. Clyde, yep, I'm ignoring your comments again. That's why I got you on here, pal. No to Jenkins. Spend in free agency. Yes. We don't know yet, Paul. We don't know the entire staff. That will come down sooner than later. Ben Johnson, Clyde's number one choice. Will he hold everyone accountable and fix the offensive defensive line? Well, that'll be on the accountability part's on him. The offensive defensive line has to be on polls in the draft and free agency. I'm with you on this, Mike. Get Hank Fraley here to be in. The only way Hank Fraley could come here is like an offensive coordinator, though. He can't come here as offensive line coach. You can't pluck from a staff when you're under contract, and you need some type of promotion. Assistant head coach, offensive coordinator, et cetera, et cetera. We don't have an update yet on Jaquan Brisker's future. We probably do need a safety, though. Yeah, Dennis Allen and Hank Fraley would be a hell of a staff. And think about all the position coaches. I'm still thinking like the Lions and all of the former players that they have on their staff that are position coaches. Antoine Randall, Mark Brunell, Hank Fraley, Steve Hyden, Scotty Montgomery. Like, I've memorized these guys. Uncle Ted, flying McCarthy out does not seem like a waste of time in retrospect because the Bears weren't certain they were getting Ben Johnson from what I've been told. So Mike McCarthy was a great fallback plan for them. That's a fact. They felt good about McCarthy being their backup plan in case Ben Johnson did not come. Cheers to you as well, my guy. Lip Ripper's throwing bets out there. He likes the Nuggets to win the title at 15-1. That is juicy, actually. And the Oilers to win the NHL Stanley Cup at 6-1. Just out of fairness, Lip Ripper. I saw somewhere way up here you had some other picks. I can't find them now. Oh, here they are. Wisconsin at UCLA getting 4. And I'm laying the 8.5. Every time you put a UNLV bet out there, it hits. I'm on it, kid. We're going to hit that later. I'm going to show you our bet of the day here in just a second. AJ wasn't invited to Sox Fest. I know Landon said something to me on Twitter about that. Do you look at the 2005 attendees? It's Burley, Freddie Garcia, and Jose Contreras. This is not the time they're bringing the whole 05 team back for a celebration. And Burley's only there on Friday night. So I don't know if it's like AJ not getting invited. I think it's the whole 05 team, not getting invited. Or not necessarily invited. They just have a different plan. Scott says the first 3 picks are offensive line. I wouldn't be afraid if the whole draft was offensive line. I wouldn't be afraid. Appreciate you, Tony. Jess, hear me out. 1 year with Fraley to get our line fixed, and then he can go be an OC somewhere else. I know I'm dreaming because he'll probably be an OC somewhere else. Yeah, Jess, he can't come here and just be an offensive line coach. He can't. All right, speaking of which, let's get to the bet of the day. We did hit last night. I had the over on the national title game in the first half, 23.5. Ohio State jumped out to a 21-7 lead, and that cashed. So we are back. Got to win. You guys are going to laugh at me. For those who out there are scoring at home, I know Lip Ripper definitely is a guy who keeps up on my bets. I rode the Bonnies last week. This is a 2-time St. Bonaventure play on the REKAP Lunch Hour. The Bonnies have a tough game coming off an absolutely blowout loss to Duquesne. I think it was Duquesne. St. Bonaventure got a tough one tonight, conference game. Yeah, they lost by 18 on the road to Duquesne. They're home tonight. They get it. It's a get right game. Oh, maybe not. George Mason. It's a first place game in the Atlantic 10. George Mason, they're in first. The Bonnies 15-4 overall. George Mason 14-5. I'm laying the 1.5 here. I don't know if you like this. You're riding the Bonnies. All right, Lip Ripper. I'm riding the Rebels, kid. Let's do it together. Maybe a little parlay. Maybe we'll parlay the Bonnies and the Rebels. That is our recap bet of the day. We are at 12, 16, and 1. We've just been kind of meddling around 500 since the start. We had that brutal 2, 7, and 1 start in our first 10. And we're just kind of we're just kind of up and down, 10 and 9, which is that's what betting is. It's just betting. It's just betting back and forth. St. Bonnie's UNLV parlay, that'll be our bonus play. All right, we're going to play UNLV and the Bonnies in a parlay. All right, guys, when we have more information about what's going on at Halas Hall, we'll get it to you. I would expect a press conference tomorrow introducing Ben Johnson as the new head coach of the Chicago Bears. If and when that's out, we'll have it on the channel. We will have a recap rush hour later. That should include some updates on Ben Johnson, some things we learned today at Halas Hall. And obviously, if the press conference happens tomorrow, Cap and I will be all over it. And I'll probably, depending on what time the press conference is, I will plan accordingly for the recap lunch hour so we can bring you the best of what was from the new head coach. I can't believe it. The new head coach of the Chicago Bears, Ben Johnson. That about does it here on a Tuesday edition of the Recap Lunch Hour with Guff, me, Ryan McGuffey, here on the Recap. Big numbers on the channel yesterday. Thanks in part to you guys. We had over 50,000 views on the breaking news Ben Johnson press conference, or Ben Johnson named the Bears head coach on YouTube and our social platforms. So you guys keep coming. We'll keep giving you the information. We'll keep giving you the programming. And we got plenty more ahead. The Bulls are off tonight. The Hawks are off tonight. And so we have a recap rush hour for you later on the channel. For everybody at the recap, I'm Ryan McGuffey. This has been the Recap Lunch Hour with me, Guff. We will see you guys